Okay.
Marco, it's on. It's on.
It's on. It's on.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Pull it out.
This is it.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. What is it? Oh yeah, just another one. So last week, it was undesignated, likely illegal beer. What is it this time? It's
This
Idlewise. Okay.
is very legal beer,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Okay.
and a little bit more pricier, but like on a really good discount.
Right.
So that was nice. We
Okay.
get Idlewise today. We're not sponsored though.
Yeah, we're not
We're not sponsored.
sponsored,
We're not
sadly.
sponsored.
Yeah,
Okay.
Idlewise, if Idlewise wants to sponsor.
Hold open, please.
Right.
Hanbin, I got you covered. Nice.
Interesting. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
So that's the baby drink.
As per request, the lady will not have any.
Yeah, that's fine. So we don't roofie women over here. But anyway, yeah. So let me introduce. Welcome again to Kingdom Cast. This is the podcast where I talk about theology and practical living. Now, this is kind of a second installment to our episode because I noticed the episode where we made a collab on where we talk about our university fellowship actually got a lot of views. So I'm just gonna keep milking it for as long as I can while we still
Gotta
can.
give the people what they want.
Yeah,
all,
yeah.
all the tea
Yeah,
and
like-
all the beer.
Strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah, yeah. Because the saddest thing is, I would like do 3 weeks of study to talk on a topic, and those garner like 2 views, and then we just talk smack for like 20 whole minutes.
No preparation.
Yeah, and zero prep, and then it's like 30, 40, 50, and it's like okay. Guess
Want the tea.
yeah, people want tea, like or not, but it's fine. So okay, I can't continue with this style. I literally can't see anything. But yeah, we got a pretty interesting drip though before the episode starts. Like we got a really cool hat. This was designed by one of our friend. Pretty-
Assembled by me, but designed by
Yeah, pretty well done stuff.
calling you one day.
We got it. Yeah, yeah. We'll have him down here. But yeah, so the episode this time is gonna be on CF as well. I'm gonna title it Interdenominational Service. Some people want to call it non-denominational, whatever. I don't get caught up on names.
Marco, start a new tradition.
What's the
Open up your
tradition?
cans, boys. Open
All
up
right,
your cans.
let's open up, I guess.
Open up.
Don't spill.
Nobody cheats. Okay.
All
Okay.
right. Cheers.
Cheers. Like at least try to participate, man. Come on.
That's okay. See, it's still pretty easy, even though it's not that cold.
Okay, I see why you like this.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's really easy. But anyway, so here's the thing. CFs are unlike churches, right? We don't necessarily have a confession of faith. We don't necessarily do sacraments too. That's kind of not our office. So there's a lot of things that are a bit on the liberty side, but usually the ditch becomes kind of two area where you become too fundamentalistic and you say, well, the CF should only run a particular way. Or the other ditch, which is, well, the CF can run however it wants to run, which is also not true. So we're here to kind of talk about the more practical aspects of those things. We don't want to just talk about the theological aspect because usually it gets stuck up in our head. So I want to talk about the boots on the ground type stuff, just like last time. So nothing too deep, but at the same time, hopefully it translates well. And this is usually true for Christian fellowships in general, because yeah, they do come, and they're not necessarily confessional. The people that come, they're still figuring things out theologically, but you don't even tackle a lot of those things in Christian fellowships. Do we baptize our children? We kind of don't really need to discuss that in the CF. If anything, you can provide space to dialogue for it. But anyway, before that, let me just introduce. We got two new guests. So I'm gonna start the introduction differently. Last time I asked about what you did in the CF before. This time I'm gonna ask, what is your home church denomination? And then I'm gonna follow up with a question after that. But yeah, just say your name and then say your home church denomination or confession. How about Grace? You start.
Hi. Hi, my name is Grace. My home church denomination is Pentecostal.
Okay. Yeah. All right. What about Hanbin? How about you start next?
I am Hanbin, and my home church was Methodist, and I am still going to a Methodist church now.
Right. So Hanbin, you're not from Peninsula. You're from
No,
Sabah.
I'm from Sabah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go to a Methodist church back in Sabah.
Mhm.
and now you go to a Methodist church in Peninsula.
Yep.
Okay, sticking close to the roots. That's fine. How about we give it to Zach now?
I'm a clown.
Okay. Yeah.
Nah, I'm a
Yes, you are.
charismatic
You're charismatic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
through and through.
Right.
Born
Well.
and raised.
All right. Okay. FJ is charismatic, right?
Oh
Yeah.
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 Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm from FGT. It stems
Yeah,
from
yeah.
FGA. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. What about you, Jun Kang?
Similar to Zach, born and raised as a Chinese Methodist.
Chinese Methodist. Okay. So, uh, okay, denominationally Methodist. All right. So now that you've said your denomination at your church, now I want to ask your personal convictions. Right. So, to make it fair, I'll start with mine. Basically, back in Indonesia, where I'm from, I go to a Presbyterian church. Right. It had its roots in Dutch Reformed denominations, and now the church that I go to now, it's a small house congregation. The pastor is similar. He has Dutch Reform inclinations. But overall, I think polity-wise and everything, we are confessionally Presbyterian. So if you ask me personally, hey, Marco, what are you? What brand, what flavor of Christian are you? I would say I'm Presbyterian, right? Baby dunking. We drink wine, red wine. So, right,
Baby dunking, head covering.
right. Wine drinking, wine bibbing, yeah. But okay, let's kind of turn this around. But while you're at it, since Henbin and Grace, you're new. How about you state your position in CF as well? Like, what do you do in general on a regular in CF? Yeah, go
Do I
ahead.
start? Okay. So I am the head of the slides department in the CF. So basically, I look over the whole slides team, what they do every week during the session, the slides that they prepare, and yeah, that's basically it. As for my theological inclination, I was raised and born Methodist, but I really started to know more about the faith as I got here actually to Peninsula to study, and then that's where I actually uh, got into contact with a lot of different denominations and different traditions.
Right.
And personally, I admire and I would incline more to the Reformed tradition. I feel like a lot of the things that are of the Reformed tradition are pretty based, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good description.
Well said.
You want base theology.
Yes.
All right. Jingang, moving on to you.
All right. So yes, he's my boss. I'm assistant of slides department. Yeah. For me, I kind of grew up not thinking through deeply about what my confession is. So I'm kind of like how the world is first created, like formless ish. Only when I entered the university that I started like having thinking throughs about it. For me, I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm still figuring out right now. I wouldn't say I completely leave the Methodist confession or I completely joined the Reformed confession. But I do agree with a few points, like such as like unconditional election
Right. Okay.
and unconditional election and irresistible grace.
Okay.
Yeah. So far, yeah, still figuring out something like that.
All right. Figuring out. Yeah. But confessionally, you're leaning that side. You're not leaving Methodism. You're leaning that direction. Okay. What about Grace? How about yourself?
Uh, Personally, the first church that I attended, I was very young. I was DUMC,
Okay.
Methodist Church. Yeah. But yeah, I was quite young when we left. And then we didn't attend church for some time. So really, I haven't been exposed to a lot of like
Denomination.
different denominations. We attended. I think the second church I attended was like a house church. Yeah, and they were basically leaning towards charismatic lah.
Okay.
We attended for quite some time. So aside from that, yeah, I would say I'm more towards charismatic.
Right. Okay. Zach. Yeah. Now you personally.
One little funny thing is that upon working with a lot of members from the UMC,
Mhm.
I'm very often find that okay, now I might be very wrong. Feel free to correct me, but I find that the UMC is a bit more charismatic than FGT sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Crazy.
not
Interesting.
yeah,
Oh, really?
not a bit
Okay.
more actually.
That's
Well,
interesting.
I feel like a what's it called? Like a conservative. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel more like a Presbyterian down there.
Yeah. So you know what? That leads neatly. So what is actually my personal conviction? You know, upon exposing myself to a lot more trials, upon exposing myself to a lot more of reality, to tasting a lot more of reality and you know taking on so many challenges with you guys, I would actually say confessionally I am actually quite a bit more inclined towards reform theology,
Right.
towards and this one's probably because of you. Everything's Marco's fault.
Yeah.
I am actually leaning more towards the 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 Calvinist point of view
Doctrines, yeah.
doctrines, but I am actually disqualified actually.
From
Yeah.
doing that or
No, yeah, it's actually like cool to be a Calvinist now.
Right,
It
right.
used to be uncool, but now it's cool. So, but I'm actually
So now it's back to not being cool.
no
'cause everyone's on it.
Now it's still cool, because of the book. But like yeah,
Oh, right, yeah.
and no, it's still cool. It's still cool. And but I'm actually disqualified because of one fundamental component of it that I actually can't wrap my head around,
Which is
which is a topic that we should talk about another day.
right. Okay.
Different episode.
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. But anyway, so interesting. So, the video kind of defeats itself because we're talking about like as if we have a lot of differences, but then it sounds like 60-70% of the table I just made them inclined to the
It's all
foreign
your
side.
fault.
Yeah, it kind of is. But it's fine. That is not to say we don't have theological difference because, so here's the funny thing. Even inside Reform camp, there is obviously difference. Now, difference kind of gets magnified when you enter university and then you enter the fellowship in the university because the songs you sing are different, the preaching that you encounter weekly are different, the topics and all those things. So emphasis also changes, and that sometimes might get in the way of the practical stuff. Like, I want to do this or I want to do that. I have a vision for A. It's like, oh, I have a vision for B instead. So okay, but before any of that, let's do a quick ice breaking. One more ice breaking, which is determine if each other are Christians. Sorry, no. That was a joke. So, give a stereotype. Here's the thing: give a stereotype of what you think each other denominations are. So, like for example, I'm Reformed. I'll give a stereotype of what Pentecostals and Charismatics and Methodists look like, and then you guys maybe give, yeah.
I will not let you down.
Okay, all right. So, how about we save you for last then? Yes. How about right? I'll start as a Reform guy. I kind of I've always had stereotypes, right? Like, for example, grew up, I always thought, oh, if you're non denominational or non confessional, you don't baptize your children, you're charismatic or Pentecostal or any along that line, you would always have your service in a theater, in like a cinema. You would always drink grape juice and a bread with a printed verse on it. You kind of would always raise your hand during worship. You kind of would jump a little bit.
Joke's on you. It's a teddy bear instead.
Teddy bear. So
No, I'm messing around.
Okay.
But you know, one time I went to this cell group's house, and then it was really cool. Like the bread that they divided, they actually had like a teddy bear stamp on it. It was so cute because their child liked teddy bears.
Oh,
Yeah. It was adorable.
I
Loved it. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how to feel about that, but it's fine. But okay, so that's kind of like the stereotype I grew up with, and it's very sad. I wouldn't say it's sad. It's just kind of a bit of shocking that when I did come Malaysia, the first few churches I had to attend was like purely charismatic, and man, I couldn't keep up with it because you guys sing 3-4 songs, uh, like immediately on the get go, right? That's how the service starts. Everyone's standing up and singing, and then the songs kind of don't end. You kind of repeat the chorus, and then everyone speaks in tongues, which I was like completely foreign to. I know some people do it, but I thought it was like the very fringe groups. But then I found out that the 2-3 church I go to, they all speak in tongues, and then I go to the CF, and they all speak in tongues, and I was like, oh boy, here we go.
You purge it all, man.
Right. So okay, so we'll get there. We'll get there someday. But yeah, let's go around the table. So Hanbin, give me a stereotype of whatever denomination you encounter here on the table. You're Methodist. What do you feel, or what do you think about maybe a fully Pentecostal or charismatic or the Reformed?
Stereotype.
Yeah,
Does it have to be?
doesn't have to be bad. Could be
I
good
mean, like, does
actually.
it have to be like stereotypes that I and have like way before, or like
Yeah, it can be. It can be like way outdated. It could be like it's not true anymore.
I guess I'll talk about, I don't know, charismatics again. Like,
That's fine,
it's the
that's
usual
fine,
it's
that's fine,
the
that's fine, yeah.
usual stereotypes.
Because they're the biggest
Yeah,
population
yeah.
group. So
The you guys always speak in tongues, then do healing,
my.
and then you guys have
Oh, yeah,
services in big theater, big cinema theaters.
and then they fall down.
You fall down, yeah.
on
You
the
get
floor.
slain by the spirit.
some exorcism while you're at it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you do that for like a whole year, and then you start to realize that it's the same people getting exercised again and again and healed again and again.
The demons are like, oh, this house is empty. I'm gonna go bring 7 of my other
Yeah,
friends.
yeah.
So no doubt, upon meeting those people, no doubt that they have willing hearts, no doubt that they are genuine. But at the
Right,
same
right.
time, why you keep getting
Why the
What's in your
demons-
house? What's in your closet, bro?
The house is empty. The Holy Spirit, oh, it's kind of not there. But okay. All right. Anything else?
I guess that's it.
That's it. Okay. What about Zhenkang? What about you?
I actually point out something that is actually true, but you know, uh, from my encounter, like going back and forth in between like different Chinese Methodist churches, yeah, their liturgy is very different. Like their flow is very different. Huh? Different for the churches. Like I go back to my father's village, and then they they kind of like they kind of sing like a, what was that again? Like the Lord is in the house, beginning worship.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and
Might
then
wanna-
all right, and then I go to the home church I go nowadays. They don't have that.
Oh,
They
okay.
just have a verse of psalm of praise, and that's it. And then you just enter
I
worship,
see.
praise and worship.
So liturgies are simpler. The
Yeah.
order of service
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the songs are different.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then I come to this Chinese Methodist church near this uni, and then they just skip that. They
Okay.
just
Okay.
skip that. Yeah.
All right.
Basically,
Interesting. Okay. So that's a stereotype shattered kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about Grace?
Yeah, it's actually the same as Sunbeam. Yeah, the
Oh,
charismatic. Yeah, that's why.
But do you
Yeah.
actually encounter that in your church when you transition to your charismatic church?
Not really.
Oh, so
Yeah.
so yeah,
it's
so
just
that
something
was
I heard.
right. So
Yeah.
you hear the boogeymans,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
okay, a lot of healing, a lot of slaying, but
Yeah.
you actually don't see that often.
I haven't seen that.
Interesting. Okay. All right. What about Zach?
should pop by FGT sometime. Anyways, okay, this one I know you're gonna like this.
Okay. Okay.
Normal people gets punished, gets corrected. Ow, okay, that really hurt. I'm not gonna do that again.
Okay.
And then reform. I'm gonna do my best impression of the wildest reform, the reformers. Yes, daddy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
that's-
What?
No, yeah. So
I'm such a worm.
yeah. So there's
and
a
then,
bit of a
and then gets corrected and then goes yes, daddy.
yeah. So
Like,
there's
what?
there seems to be a kind of impression that Reformed people just love to self-loathe, which is actually not.
I was like,
Sadly.
I thought that was like a Catholic slash.
So
You know?
so I think I did an episode on how a lot of Reformed people act like Catholics nowadays, in that they kind of do their penance in a spiritual kind of penance, right? They don't walk up the stairs of Rome or any of that, but they just kind of flagellate themselves spiritually. But that's, I don't think that's like inherently a feature in Reformed theology. But yeah, like I said, that's a fair stereotype because
that stereotype came to be because of the most flamboyant reformers. in CF when
Right.
I first came, because before uni, let's be
Which
real,
is-
we don't really encounter so many denominations and so many
Right.
different cultures. But yeah, you come together, and then usually the noisiest people tends to make the
Yeah, that's
impression.
unfortunate. And reform people consist of like less than 10%, so that's
Yeah.
unfortunate. But okay, let's move on from the topic. So we haven't even gone to the topic. That was literally icebreaker. But okay, so we got differences and all those things, right? We talked about speaking in tongues, and some particular reform doctrine. But then I want to jump to a more practical topic. So let's say in your department or maybe in your conception of a CF, where would you draw the line? It could be practice, it could be doctrine. But this is where you say, we cannot have this or we must have it this way. Right? So, for example, maybe I can give an example, right? Um, for me, one of the most contentious one I think is that worship must be orderly. So that's why my first kind of like inquisition when I did come CF and did come to all these churches was basically why is worship so quote unquote discordant? Because a lot of people speak in their own languages, they all babble these words that don't really mean anything, and they kind of don't do anything for the service in general. So that was uh, the early parts, and you gotta understand that's a whole 1 year of me observing, and I don't even object. So when the CF people do their tongues, and I didn't have a clean theological objection to it yet, I actually stayed quiet. Um, but I did set it in my heart that I need to direct eventually the worship in CF to be more orderly. If they disagree with me on tongues, that's fine. But is there a way that I can make it orderly? And so I started influencing or asking them, hey, can we have kind of like a timetable thing or a kind of order of service thing so that things like song, worship, they don't extend over time. Preaching also don't extend over time. Announcement also don't extend over time, right? And funny story, right now, not a single person speaks in tongue during CF service. So that's my fault.
It's all your fault.
Yeah, so it is my fault. But here's the thing: if nobody's convinced about it, then everyone would have kept doing it, right? So I obviously labored to convince everyone theologically, and that's my second kind of like must have. That's the kind of line I draw. If you do come CF, you serve and all these things, the Bible must be your sole authority. I don't want you to come here saying things like, which I hear a lot, God told me, and then the next thing out of your mouth is a misquoted Bible verse, right? I made sure that gets put to death essentially. I'm not killing them, but but so the way I did it, obviously, it's not.
Wait, you're supposed to stone them.
I know, but you know,
Yeah.
that's those are the things we work on. See, eventually, we'll stone them, but we're not there yet. So yes, we don't take perjury against God as harshly. But anyway, jokes aside, right? Those are my. Maybe we'll talk about how we deal with them later. But talk about those things first. Your like absolute. No, I have to either prime the CF in a particular direction, or this must be a prerequisite. You must have this, or you must not carry this with you when you come to CF. So how about Zach? You start this time.
All right, guide me through. Can you
Yeah.
say a sentence?
What are
again?
your
Yeah.
like must have or must not haves type things in CF? It could be doctrinal, it could be practice,
Yeah.
right? So maybe in worship team.
Mm.
So because you're head of worship,
Yes.
so tell me what
That was
are
actually
those
quite a
things?
dilemma that I had to grapple with at the beginning, because the background that I came from, worship, is usually very messy. Like uh like the order, the way that worship is directed and all that, the bridge is usually multiplied by n.
Yeah.
Okay, it's multiplied by n. Why? Because I don't know how many times we're gonna
Yeah.
play it.
And N is equals to
As much as the leader wants.
right. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes 20. There was once.
Yes.
There was once.
That was a problem which
Yes.
I wanted to fix early on. But okay. So
So yeah, but that's the one that I was used to, and I didn't really have anything against that. Only that, I don't get to do my assignment after this meeting, you know.
right.
But yeah, and then upon getting more and more perspectives, awesome. Okay, you know what? the realization was that all of it are actually kind of valid. How say, you want it to be disciplined, you want it to be excellent, you want it to be prepared to the best of your abilities on your end. But on the
Right.
flip side, you also don't want to put a muffle on what could potentially happen or what the Spirit could potentially do.
Sure. Okay.
So okay, there's this guy who wants it this way, there's this guy who wants it that way. All are willing to talk it out. So you know what? It's worth trying to find that middle ground, and that was actually what I tried to do to the best of my abilities.
Right.
To make the worship team, and to make the worship more disciplined, more orderly, and yeah, and choosing simpler songs, nothing too crazy, nothing heretical.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's definitely a high bar because
Mm.
guess what? Back then, I don't think we pick songs for any particular reason
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So-
So what is a must have for me? What is not a must have? Honestly, I usually choose a more non-denominational approach. Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
hate me for this.
That's
But
fine.
yeah, the golden rule for me is as long as you're willing to talk it out with me, as long as you're willing to talk it out with your opponent, I'm willing to accommodate and I'm willing to hear you out.
Yeah.
It's
And-
as simple as that.
yeah.
And a CF is not meant for the Presbyterians. A CF is not meant for the Charismatics. It's meant for also the Catholics.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's why
So
we've historically had Catholics.
yes, exactly. So unfortunately, it's not one way or the other from what I see. It's more so where is that middle ground? Where is that road that we can all worship together?
Right.
At least
Yeah.
that's the job that I try to do to the best of my abilities.
So one interesting thing.
As you know, your boss.
Yeah. But one interesting thing I noticed is discipline, quote unquote, was not like ultimate priority for you.
Mm.
But then it rose up in priority.
Oh yeah.
So I was wondering what made you prioritize discipline.
No, you did it, bro. You did
Oh,
it.
yeah, okay, so
Who-
it's my fault.
you see, you hang out with Marco
It's
for too long, he just
crazy.
rubs you off. He makes you drink beer. Yeah, makes you drink plum wine,
Yeah.
red wine.
I'll change the title to
We're
the-
gonna work our way
yeah.
to whiskey one day. One day. But no.
But-
But yeah, you know what? The more I work with people, the more you let other perspectives
Right,
in,
right.
the more you just start to grow as a person. And you know what? I also started to realize actually this is a personal factor. Discipline was actually just one of my greatest struggles. So if it's one of my greatest struggles and I'm called to be disciplined, guess what? I have to put more focus on that.
Yeah,
You know what?
and
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, it wasn't about me, and that was the realization early on. So from doing things my way, initially it ended up being okay. What's God's way? Let's take the best of every world as possible as
All right. Okay. That's good. That's good. All right.
with like some hard no-nos,
Oh,
like
yeah.
and yeah,
So-
the heresy. I'm talking about the heresy. Okay.
Right. Okay. So, Grace, you got anything? No, not particular.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Then maybe Jinkang, you want to share yours?
The direction I have is a bit different from Zach, cause of me joining in quite a number of disciplinary bodies that I kind of got used to an order of a particular flow or when
Right.
I first joined CF, so I really don't have any expectations on what should I do on it. What I really want, I don't kind of show out, you know. But I
Okay.
do still, but for me, as a person who is very passionate in music, I do have quite a standard for how harmony should go.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have maybe technical expectations.
Oh yeah. Working with him, my emphasis is very much on the order of things and the discipline of things.
Uh-huh.
But many times it's because I'm actually not skilled enough to make the judgments that he can make.
Right.
So his technical excellence and proficiency is generally higher than mine.
Right.
But then he doesn't really scold people like I do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you don't get
But-
what you want.
Yeah. But actually, right, I kind of notice a pattern where as you do grow, liberties actually kind of increase because it's kind of the same when I'm teaching early on. As smart as I was or whatever it is, like as many books as I've read, when I teach, I kind of limit myself to a certain topic and a certain maybe text selection, right? Basically a particular lectionary because I wasn't confident in crafting different topics. But now, if you ask me, you just give me a theme, I can basically work with nearly most texts that you give me. And I feel the same way is true for something like worship, right? Where you need an itinerary and he can kind of go with the flow. And actually, neither is bad because at the time you needed to learn discipline, he needed to learn a bit more to be loosened up a bit. So I think that's cool, and I don't think
Yeah.
Yeah.
The charismatic needed to learn how to keep quiet, and the Methodist needed to learn how to speak up.
yeah, but I don't know if the Methodist really needs to learn to speak up specifically, but I'm just saying. But that's kind of the thing. So I guess it takes wisdom when you do see someone new come into your CF, and you have to wonder where they are at in this season of their walk with God, whatever the buzzword is for the people nowadays, right? Are they in the time where they need discipline? Like, hey, I know you're good and whatever, but stick to the itinerary. While the other guy is like, hey, I know you're skilled. I know you don't need ABCs. Time to expand. Right. So it takes wisdom. There's no like one way. Oh, it's order of this, liberty of this. There's no kind of one way solution. So okay, but that's an interesting observation. What about you, Hanbin?
Sorry, what was the question? Something that
Yeah,
Does
it's a
the-
must-have, a
must-have,
prerequisite,
or something
cannot have. Like
cannot
absolutely won't tolerate. Maybe in your own particular office, like as I know you teach the CGs,
Mhm.
you CG lead and all those things. You do slides. So yeah, those areas.
Let me think. Uh,
That's fine.
I,
Yeah.
Maybe
Go ahead.
maybe drinks will help you. Oh man.
no, I'm almost finished with mine actually.
Okay.
Oh, you must like it.
Well, I can't actually think of anything that is particularly related to my office.
Okay.
Uh,
That's fine too.
but maybe as a CF, I feel like we shouldn't bow down to like authorities as much. I feel, yeah.
Okay.
Like for example, if a higher
Before
authority,
you continue,
yeah. What?
bet. You're gonna get us in so much trouble. You wait.
But that's just what I think. But yeah, for example, a higher authority wants us to do something, but it goes against what we believe in, or like what we strive to be, or what we want to do,
Right.
and we shouldn't just submit because they're a higher authority, and we shouldn't be afraid of not being to form the CF anymore, because even
Alright.
without this, we can still gather together. So
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
Amen. So we don't even submit to God. Amen. Not even that higher
No,
authority.
obviously that's
obviously yeah,
Yeah,
what I
no.
was talking
I,
about.
I'm just
So-
pulling a lick, man.
right. So basically, when the authority goes against the ultimate authority,
Mhm.
which is God, so I guess your kind of non-negotiable
Mm.
is obeying God. Period.
Yeah.
Even if it's against norms or cultures or whatever.
Yep.
So okay, that's also my fault. I'm assuming. I don't think you're this rebellious. when
Probably
you-
not. No.
You were saying?
The drinks did it. The drinks did it.
I don't know, but no, but yeah, because I think there are instances where I just straight up make comments like, "Oh, the school wants us to do this thing that is either straight up sinful or like we shouldn't compromise," and I'll be like, "Oh, that's dumb. We'll just not do that."
Or like you celebrate Halloween with Christmas together.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wait,
That
what?
was yeah. Remember? What year was this?
No, I wasn't around.
Oh yeah, you. No. Maybe for example. Oh, Halloween. They want a collaboration of
Yeah.
all the bunch of clubs, and then we learned. Oh, there was a tarot card reading, and basically there's a lot of witchcraft in the event, and we're just like, yeah, no thanks, because they told us, hey, you can sell stuff, you can make profit, and then we're just like, nope, because otherwise we would have cursed.
This one actually happened last year as well.
Okay.
The same invitation came,
Oh really?
but then this time it was for us to perform and open up booth for sales. So it was actually an even bigger offer this time.
Right. For what event?
For it was the Computer Science Society, I believe.
Right. But
Oh, yeah,
what was
yeah,
what was the problem?
No, music club just screwed them.
Okay, that's interesting.
It
No,
was
but
it
there
was it was mismanaged. So
I see.
they just had like this little karaoke toy speaker
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
this little toy
But-
mic that
yeah.
they were singing into, and then we were like blasting our ears off. in the old library. That was
Okay.
fun. That was fun. We should do it
Alright.
again.
Oh,
but
yeah,
but
that.
but I am talking about the more strict kind where there was straight up witchcraft practiced, and people making profit off of tarot card reading, palm reading, all the Chinese magic sorcery stuff. And at the time,
Last year we stole their audience.
oh yeah,
pretty
that's-
bad.
They
badly.
actually did have tarot card reading.
Yeah,
And then
they
we
didn't
were-
make money actually
we
kind of
had a
because of
worship-
us.
We had a worship event right beside them.
Yes.
Hallelujah, yeah.
Ah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
why? Because the week right before that, we prayed. We prayed that God
Amen.
would curse them.
Amen.
Yep, because so that their gods won't be able to.
They
read
probably
yet.
made like a good $20. Honestly, if they stepped in, I'm not even surprised if they
Which
just dropped
is-
it.
Which is still too much.
Yeah.
They should have been stoned. They should have not walked away with their life even.
Yo, it's like it was okay. This is hilarious, but it's like you just know who are the tarot card readers because it's like for some reason goth is just their go-to.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's just goth.
The
Like,
person
why?
that was doing the tarot card reading booth had like a goth setup, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Chinese people don't even wear that. I
Yeah.
feel.
Not gonna lie, give me a leather jacket, eyeliners, I'm in.
Right,
like,
right, right.
I will rock that style. I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah,
But like
the mind
man.
freak guy. What's his name? I forgot. Yeah, but that's hilarious.
Yeah,
Did,
it's so funny.
did you want to say something, Chingang?
I was about to say something that Humpin already said.
Ah, okay. All right. So okay. So obeying God, obviously non-negotiable. So that's all obviously somewhat true. Let me chip one or two in to kind of cheat, right? Things like, again, scriptural practice. That's non-negotiable. You can't say, "Oh, I want to do this," and it goes straight up against scripture, right? I'm actually not against things like dancing, which stereotypically people who are reformed are like, no, you can't even move your hip for like a couple of centimeters during worship. But I'm actually not against it because I'm actually pretty liberal, not unbelieving kind of liberal, but like free.
Marco,
No such thing.
you gotta repent.
Don't start with that. But how to say? Yeah, liberal in the sense that I think there is a lot of freedom granted for CFs because we're not tied down to things like denomination and all those things. We are still tied down to ethical practices, convictional practices, right? So I will indeed not force people to do things that are against their confession. So yeah, those are things. Let me move on maybe to the next question. I'm gonna kind of sorry. I'm gonna move on. Try to combine these two questions so we move a bit faster. What are some of the theological or practical disagreements that you've personally run into in CF? Right? Oh, I want to do this, and everyone either goes, "No, we can't do that," or "I don't believe we should do that." And then, what are the times that you had to compromise? So you believe you're supposed to do A, but you decide not to do it, or you decide to do B instead because you feel fighting for it would be worse than compromising on this one thing. You want to go ahead first?
Yeah. This one is actually probably gonna be most quite relatable to all of you. The one big theological disagreement that we very recently encountered was actually to have gospel in everything. The insistence of having gospel in everything.
Yeah, let me fix the language there a little bit. It's not necessarily have gospel and everything, but basically have an
Gospel
a presentation of atonement
Yes.
in everything,
Yes.
right? Because when we talk about gospel, we're actually talking about the 66 books of the Bible. We're talking about the entire canon.
Yeah.
But the problem in this case is that we want a positive presentation on Christ's atonement for sin,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which, okay, you go ahead.
Yeah. So should I give some context as well?
Sure, sure.
All right. So events and activities that we want to plan, when there is a certain party whom actively opposed the plans, to which, for example, to make CF activities more applicable, to make it
Okay.
more relevant, and to make it more attractive.
Right.
The number one question that always came up is, yeah, but where's the gospel?
Okay.
You know.
Interesting. All right.
So it's almost like I'm pretty sure that this is just done intentionally, but
Right.
like to have to have that, to allow
Yeah.
them to have their way.
Right.
But yeah, that
So
if that's also their theological standing, am inclined to disagree.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that's usually also true. As a reform guy, right?
Yeah.
I kind of see this sadly from my camp because there's always this insistence of, let's say you do a presentation on anything at all, right? Politics, art, culture. There's almost like this immediate objection card where it's
Yes.
like,
It's like,
where,
where's the word? Where's
where's
the
it?
word? Where's
Yeah,
the theology?
where's
You know?
atonement? Where's
Yes.
But it's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
is this all that Christian theology is?
Yeah.
And usually that's when they quote all the, all the theologians, all the Reformed theologians who say, well, the gospel is basically the be all end all.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't think is necessarily true in
Do
the
you
way
remember?
they.
Do you remember your gray question when you post when you post it to one of the members, one of the people who subscribe to this kind of doctrine? Oh, that there's this Christian dating a non-Christian. What would you do? And
Right.
the person slowly raised up their hand and went, have a Bible study with them and
Right. Yeah, which
and
is like
remind them and like
No,
ensure
actually-
that their understanding of the gospel is
right. So I was like, okay, so that's actually not the problem, isn't it? So I kind of pointed that out. Okay, let's
Yeah.
say let's say a person murders someone.
Mm.
Can you really say, well, they have a misunderstanding of the gospel?
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Yeah,
Right.
duh, but like, is
Solution-
that what you're supposed to do?
Right.
Is that the
Solution
Yeah.
is not have a study on atonement.
Yes.
Right? So I think the problem. Okay, let's.
So it's like, what's next? Oh, what's it called? I'm depressed. What should I what's the immediate what should we do as friends and as members of CF?
Right.
Gospel.
Yeah. So
I'm
let's,
having financial hardships, guys. What should you do for me? Bible
our
study
sins.
and gospel.
Right.
I'm choking on food, guys. What should you do for me? Bible study and gospel.
Yeah.
Exaggerated, but sure.
right. So dial it back. It is. So I can get one degree of inclination where, let's say, everyone's talking about how we can make the event bigger or more relatable. I think it's fair to sometimes ask, hey, can we basically infuse more more theology into it, or even anything more gospel, more atonement, whatever. That's one thing. But one thing you don't definitely want to do is make the gospel something like a thing you want to sell. You look like someone who does multi-level marketing, right? And
I draw the line where the insistence of the gospel being present in everything we do as a CF.
yeah,
You know,
which
even if it's just blessing the community or just doing what, you know. Imagine if you try to infuse the gospel into your eating, into your, like, come on, man,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on, welcome
So-
to reality.
So yeah, we do have, if people kind of wonder, that's obviously people would probably draw attention to people like
Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah.
So look at what Paul does most of the time. Well, actually, a good chunk of the time he's asking for money from the churches, and another chunk of time he does tent making for his business. Now, that is not to say he ignores the gospel when he's doing those things. But what's the problem here? Because we think atonement kind of governs absolutely every category
Oh,
in
yeah.
life,
And it also implies that the preaching of the word is like the only thing you need in your life.
right? So this is where I kind of want to say this is actually the humanistic kind of gospel, because they also make gospel about man's atonement. Now, here's the thing. Atonement, or basically all 66 books of the Bible, is actually not just about God saving man, right? God has a lot of things in mind. He wants to create beauty. He wants to create a priesthood. He wants to create a beautiful world and all those things. Sure, those things can be apart from the gospel or atonement, but they have to expand out as a concept. You can't. It would be absurd if you invited me for the talk on art, right? Redeeming art. And then what do? Well, Jesus died for your sins.
Yes, 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 yes.
But Marco, you didn't.
Exactly.
You have not grown me. I have not matured
Oh, yeah.
in my artistic framework. So and I think that would become a problem. So we kind of choke people on milk, on the very basic stuff when we do these things,
No,
right?
the irony is that the milk the liquid has actually dried. It's just powder now.
Yeah. So that's when
Probably still nutritious, but like it's dry and
when
it's
you
painful.
force it down too much, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So one funny quote that I can't remember, I can only remember on top of my head.
Paraphrase.
It's by G.K. Chesterton. It's about how every heresy or wrong doctrine is basically a Christian truth gone mad. So this one aspect of Christian truth outside of the thousands that there are, you overemphasize it and you kind of maximize it, and it swallows up all the other truths, right? It's like basically saying God's law says murder is death penalty, and then you say, but Marco, we're told to forgive. Well, what you did is you conflated forgiveness and atonement to swallow up things like justice. But atonement has to exist with God's justice. Otherwise, it does not make sense. What are you showing mercy for? What are you atoning for if it's not God's justice? So I think that's a really good quote
Oh yeah.
from Chesterton.
Okay. I'll move on.
Yeah, but anyway, any of you have any other instances where you have theological or practical disagreements?
I did not stay in CF long enough to see that, but sure.
Oh, okay. So everything just is like yes and amen from your side.
Ah, yes.
Okay, crazy.
You know, Marco, I'm too good. I disagree so fast that he doesn't have to.
Nah, okay,
Man.
that's unfortunate. Do you have any? Or if not, we can move on. That's fine.
Not that I could think of.
Right.
Okay, actually, I have one thing to point out. I do feel like in some point in the future, I would have to face something like differences in what we mentioned just now, something like flow in the CF.
Right.
Yeah, because I do recently heard that there are some people who feels like the meaning behind the flow is kind of vague,
Okay.
and that
Right.
we should cut off all the formalities.
I see. So maybe do away with structure a little bit, make it more informal.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So those are probably things you have to figure out on the go, right? Like I said, I did the reason I introduced liturgy was actually because there was none. There was zero order. Now, I hope you don't do away with it completely. I wish it stays. But if you ever come across a point where the formality literally becomes that, a formality, and people basically go through the motion, when we do the blessing, when we do the confession of sin, people don't really confess their sin. They don't really seek forgiveness. They go through the motion. I do wish you do away with that. Right? I was reading Ezra and Zechariah, and I told you guys about the time where the people are asking, "Oh, should we keep the fast? Should we start establishing the liturgy, this and that?" And then God says, "To hell with that. Basically, to hell with all those, because at this point, those are formalities. Those are shows. If you want justice, you let it flow. You let it proceed forever and ever." So there are times where you need to do away with the structure. And I'm actually the kind of guy who is like, yeah, screw structures, right? So actually, sticking to a liturgy is something hard for me, something I needed to learn. The fact that I see a situation more messy than me, and I'm like, oh, whoops, I'm the one who has to realize I need to be the one introducing order. I need to tell people to slow down. I think that's like a maturity call, where I used to be like, oh, let me do this, let me do that. I'm not going to listen to you. Now I need to be the guy who gets told, I don't want to listen to you. I want to do my own thing. So that's like a huge like humbleness check for me. I don't know if you guys ever run into those, but okay. How about we end on a good note, right? What are the things you think CF should focus on so that we can find unity? Right? So what are those things that maybe we have done or you wish to do in the future that would encourage unity, that would encourage less disagreement, less bouts, less fights, and all those things? Yeah, could be doctrinal again, could be practical.
I like
Go-
your style. I like
yeah.
your style.
You wanna expand the idea?
I don't know.
Okay, that's
Just
fine.
off the top of my head, yeah.
All right.
That's-
How about Hanbin? How about you start this time?
What was the question?
What are those things, right, in CF that you want to seek unity in. So
Seek unity.
it could be the thing that we have already done. It could
Mhm.
be something we will or you want to establish that promotes unity
Promotes
instead of disagreement and bouts and fights and all those. Could be practice, could be theology, could be whatever.
Uh, okay. Thinking about our situation
Okay.
of our CF right now,
Uh huh.
I feel like this is an issue that we have to address.
Right. Okay.
But what I have in mind for quite some time is, um, we argue and we have these disagreements and bouts because we don't know each other well enough. So we
Okay.
don't think from the other person's perspective of why they have this kind of train of thought, probably.
Right. Okay.
So something that I would want the CF to have more is, what's the word?
More.
More.
The word is sympathy, but I hate the words.
I guess
Uh,
sympathy. It's like,
Maybe more. Okay, I think I know the word. I think it's a safe space, and I absolutely hate the word.
I hate it too.
No,
I hate it too.
yeah.
It's a loaded word.
No, okay.
You never
but,
win.
But
Yeah.
okay, let me cook. Let me explain. Right? When we talk about safe space, it's usually for, like out of bound type stuff, right? Things that are just straight up taboo or whatever. But funny thing is, in Christian circles, we create safe space for those things, but we don't create safe space for different theology, different
yep.
practice, which is funny. You mentioned the account, which I'll bring up. There was a Bible study where the person asked, "Oh, do you know about predestination or something similar of a concept?" And the answer was something along the lines of, "We don't talk about that." Yeah, but what does that create? That creates a space where the person who probably is already somewhat convinced of the idea, right? That's why he brought it up, or he's curious about the idea. He gets told implicitly, "That's dangerous. Don't touch it. Don't even talk about it." Because, like it or not, even if you don't explicitly say that, if you say don't talk about it, that's straight up. You're saying it's a taboo subject, right? And I do feel that if you already create that kind of space, I hate the word, but it's fine. You create that kind of space, right? People are immediately already discouraged by before even tackling it.
Let's swap out the word for culture.
Yeah, sure. That's great. That's amazing. Thank you so much for saving me.
Very welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, uh, I think that's a good hope. Then we create a culture where the difference might not be straight up accepted, but is definitely openly discussed. It's not like, "Oh, you're an idiot. Shut the hell up," or
Yeah,
something
yeah, yeah.
along that line, right?
Yep.
Because most people are not rambunctious. If people say, "I don't know," or "Don't press me on this topic," they will stop, right? That was not the case for me. So when I was asking people, "Can you please explain tongues? Can you please explain it from the pages of scripture?" They'll go, "I know it exists. I know it's supposed to be angelic language. Don't press me on that." But I press.
Yeah.
And, I was told, "Oh, Marco, you're making some people uncomfortable."
Scaring them.
Yeah, it's scaring, Marco. But here's the thing, right? In my personal conviction, I feel that people should be more uncomfortable that they're doing things that they're not convinced of is in scripture,
Yep.
or at least they can't substantiate. So, I was definitely convinced that I'm doing a service for everyone by basically saying, "Hey, if you believe, you should do this. You should believe that God told you to do this, minimum, right? Because you can't just be doing things because."
Yep.
So, I think that's a good vision. Was there anything you want to add to that?
I think that's it.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's already a good one. How about you, Chen Gang?
I wanna give a props to one of my lecturers in a math class. Like he literally just said, "Oh, all everyone in the world, all they need to do is just to jump into someone else's shoes, thinking their logic, and you can solve the problem."
I know.
Okay, yeah. So a bit more of that intellectual sympathy too, right? Step in
Yeah,
their shoe,
yeah.
think through. Yeah, that's fair, right? And to be frank, I have not.
And then
Yeah.
ask questions from their view. You don't
Right, right.
ask questions from your view.
because
Yeah.
they won't understand. They can't answer it.
Yeah, that is fair, and I believe I've not been able to do that. Notice the one thing that I can't do is ask pointed questions. That's why I kind of hate it when people ask pointed questions towards me, because it's as if they're already denying my hypothesis when they probably haven't, right? So that's probably a skill personally I need to pick up, because I'm kind of better at presenting a positive idea. So maybe doing quote unquote internal critique where I ask what they believe instead should be a good direction to kind of do that too. Because sometimes you just kind of can't be in the other person's shoe. It's a matter of literally growing up being taught something or been doing something your whole life, right? Like I understand when I tell people, like, hey, the way you understand tongues might not be in the Bible. Some of them do that since they were like 9, 8, 10, something like that. So you're literally questioning. It's as if you're questioning breathing. Like, do you know if you're breathing and not?
Wait, does that mean my whole life's a lie?
Yeah. Which is like the minimum sympathy I can have there is at least take it slow. And usually when I don't, this is when people enter into something called cage stage.
Yeah, the cage
Which is when they're convinced something they've been believing or doing their whole life was wrong, and their entire life suddenly is about disproving that thing. So it's pretty hilarious. Kind of happens for everything. It's usually attributed to Calvinists, but
Yeah.
it actually, yeah, but it happens to everything, I feel. So, but yeah, and any of you guys have any last ones?
Is it ready?
Yeah.
No, yeah,
Okay. I'm gonna differ slightly here.
Right.
But what I really want to see take place in the CF is a rise in genuine worship. Many times when of course the worship guy is talking about worship,
Right.
many times when we serve, when we give, when we sing, when we offer ourselves, I cannot speak with confidence that it is done with the sole intention of truly giving your best offering onto God. Even the singers that I have to put on stage, even the musicians, it pains me sometimes when I have to when I sometimes people always accuse me of jumping to conclusions, but it pains me sometimes when I can see or suspect that that there are motives and that there is conflict of motives,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
or
And-
sometimes just a wrong motive for wanting to serve.
Yeah.
I'm not accusing anybody within our inner circle. Our inner circle is excellent, by the way.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Their hearts could not be more clear.
Okay.
Their passion could not be more clear. But you know, yeah. So as a whole, as a CF, what I want to see more of is a rise in genuine worship, genuine offering of yourselves, bowing, surrendering of your own will onto God.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not just my job. Unfortunately, it's everybody's job.
Yeah.
Music is but a symptom of the time.
Yeah.
Rock music came from the times, okay?
Yeah.
From a time of great anger.
Yeah.
Jazz
So-
came from a time of great
Basically sorrow.
whoring.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, there
Yeah.
was there. It
Oh,
came
yeah,
off from a
came
slavery.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And all So music is but a sign of the times, and unfortunately, when you guys look at me, I am just a reflection of our current health,
Yeah.
which
So,
which is pretty good in my opinion. In my
Yeah.
opinion, is better than a lot of churches even.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? We can be better.
Yeah.
It can be
So
better.
so I think that is an encouragement
We
because
got a rise in our offering, sure,
Yeah.
in our communion, in our understanding, in our pursuit of truth.
Yeah.
Everything, unfortunately.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good, and I think what encourages me is to give like a final anecdote. The final stereotype that I kept hidden was the fact that I thought charismatics or most of these other lower, quote unquote, not lower in value, but they just call it lower.
It's okay,
Blame
Marco.
blame the one who names it. But
Yeah.
the lower denominations are not interested in theology at all.
Yep.
But that's and I see all of you, and that's definitely not true anymore, right? I've given you things to read. I've given all of you things to read, and you guys are able to converse back.
Ate it up.
Yeah,
Yes.
you guys are able to converse it back to me, that makes me grow myself, right? So that's an encouragement definitely that you guys have and can grow out of whatever trappings that you grew up with. So
You're
if you,
welcome.
yeah, yeah, definitely not thanks to the times, but you know,
Like speaking in the base sense, humans are called to respond. There's no way we don't respond with anything given all the info
that,
and intake and
yeah,
input.
that's true. And sometimes the problem is we're not taught how to respond. We're told to swallow, regurgitate, swallow, regurgitate. I think university is the good time where you finally break that cycle. You stop swallowing, regurgitating. You start dialecting. You start recursing, right? So I have a final excerpt I kind of want to read. Sorry if it's a long one. It's basically the one I read for your sorry, not recruitment, your retreat before you became committees. And it was basically a book from an author, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. An amazing book I would recommend to everyone of my audience called Life Together. He basically talks about Christian community, Christian fellowships, how to live in one, all those things. And right now, in this segment called Not Ideal, but a Divine Reality, he talks about the guy who's stuck in his head, who's stuck in his dream. So if you let me read, and I quote, innumerable times, whole Christian communities broke down because it sprung up from a wish dream. The serious Christian sets down for the first time in a Christian community and has a very definite idea of what life together should look like. But God's grace speedily shatters such dreams. Just as surely as God desires to lead us to a knowledge of genuine Christian fellowship, so surely must we be overwhelmed by a great disillusionment with others, with Christians in general, and, if we are fortunate, with ourselves. By sheer grace, God will not permit us to live, even for a brief period, in a dream world. He does not abandon us to those rapturous experiences and lofty moods that come over us like a dream. God is not the God of emotions, but the God of truth. Only that fellowship, which faces such disillusionment, with all its unhappy and ugly aspects, begins to be what it should be in God's sight, begins to grasp in faith the promise that is given to it. The sooner this shock of disillusionment comes to an individual and to a community, the better for both. A community which cannot bear and cannot survive such a crisis, which insists upon keeping its illusion when it should be shattered permanently, loses in that moment the promise of Christian community. Sooner or later, it will collapse every human wish dream that is injected into the Christian community. And it is an hindrance to the genuine community and must be banished if genuine community is to survive. He who loves his wish dream of a community more than the Christian community itself becomes a destroyer of the latter, even though his personal intent may ever be so honest, earnest, and sacrificial. God hates visionary dreaming. It makes the dreamer proud and pretentious. The man who fashions a visionary ideal of community demands that it be realized by God, by others, and by himself. He enters the community of Christians with his demands, sets up his own law, and judges the brethren and God himself accordingly. He stands adamant, a living reproach to all other circles of the brethren. He acts as if he is the creator of the Christian community, as if his dreams bind men together. When things don't go his way, he calls the effort a failure. When his ideal picture is destroyed, he sees the community going to smash. So he becomes first an accuser of his brethren, then an accuser of God, and finally the despairing excuser of himself. What's scary is how prophetic this book was for myself when I first read it. Because that was probably my first semester, my first year when I entered the Christian fellowship. I had a vision coming in already of what it should look like from my fellowship back home. And I thought, this works, this is biblical. I can impose the template everywhere I go. And quickly I found out that's the wish dream, right? I can back it up with as many theologies I want, but that is my wish dream. The fact that I don't meet people where they are, where you guys were in your time, that's what destroyed the community first. And that's what destroyed me first. I become an accuser of God. I become an accuser of the brethren. Why don't you listen? I'm right. Why won't God grant me this? I'm doing it right. And eventually, I blame myself. Why can't I realize what I set myself as standard? So if I can ever set a message or kind of like a vision, quote unquote, right, for CF, it's so that when people do come, they don't come with their visionary dreams, or that they do come and God quickly
Shatters it.
shatters the
Kind
vision.
of like
yeah?
all of us actually.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a vision. You want CF and all your neighbors to look a certain way, and they look nothing like it. But here's the thing. Here's the blessing. It looks far better than I ever imagined. Right? That's crazy. That's
Right.
something.
Based.
Yeah, that's the
Based.
blessing
Mm.
behind the, God turns your sackcloth into joy. Well, God turns my visionary dreams into divine realities.
Mm.
So that's my personal anecdote. I can probably end it here. Does any of you want to have a closing remark? If not, that's gonna be it.
I'm just imagining like when we get to heaven, there's like one side of the large congregation singing hymns, on the other side there's dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
and then
that-
the center is just Xiamen.
We just refuse to do both, I
Yeah,
guess.
and then we're just like, where do we?
Yeah, but okay, that's hilarious. All right, that has been Kingdom Cast, and we'll sign off with a cheers. Right?
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Serious, but get in there.
Boom.